Welcome to the Dynamics Hot Dish Podcast. Whether you're a tech enthusiast or novice, there's something here for everyone. I'm Liz.
And I'm Allie, and together we're your hosts.
Join us as we dive into the world of technology, implementation, and management.
From hearing expert insights to exploring inspiring stories of tech impact, we cover it all.
We'll interview technology users, configurators, and leaders where we discuss driving effective tech adoption in businesses.
Tune in to laugh, learn, and leverage the power of technology. The future is tech-driven. Let's navigate it together. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Dynamics Hot Dish. We're happy you're back here. Liz and I have been enjoying summer in Minnesota. I know it's hard to believe that at the time we're recording this, it's already after Labor Day, so we're already into September. And let me tell you, I don't know where the time is going. It's kind of insane how quickly time's been going by. And I guess now that I'm thinking about it, Liz, too, now might be a good time to actually tell our listeners my news.
We should. Yeah, I can't believe we haven't yet. We've been talking about it.
Because one thing I've learned over the past few months is that when you count your life in weeks, it goes by even faster. And so to give some context, the reason I'm counting my life in weeks is because I'm having a baby come November. So that's some really exciting news. Matt and I are having a baby girl that's due the first week of November. So it's making time go by extra quickly as we prepare for that as well.
Well, congratulations. We're very excited for you. I was sad to miss your baby shower last weekend. How did it go?
Oh, yeah, thank you. No, it was really fun. It's making everything seem a little bit more real once you start talking to people about it. And, you know, the hardest part about those is always being the center of attention and like opening gifts in front of other people and things like that, you know. But my mom, did amazing planning. She smashed the theme out of the park. We did a little cuties on the way theme, so the little cutie oranges. That's why my fingernails are still orange too.
That's adorable.
It was really fun. And it was
I love that.
It was a good time. Yeah, and the food was great. We had great games. My sister played MC. It was just really fun to have, your best family and friends around and to celebrate with everybody. It was great.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my summer, I can't beat that news by any means. What have I been doing this summer? Lots of volleyball. Allie and I play on a Monday league, and that's now wrapped up. But I have started a fall Tuesday league. And then
You're committed. You're committed to the volleyball, Liz.
We've done 2 camping trips. So we went camping in June for a few days, and then we were camping last weekend over Labor Day weekend. And both times in Wisconsin. I highly recommend the recreation.gov app. There, you can filter down on what's available, or just look for first come, first serve sites, which is what we do because we never plan and make reservations. But both times we got really lovely private wooded sites on a lake, and there were 0 bugs. I think
what?
No bugs, 0 bugs. We had 2 mosquitoes the whole time. We were very prepared. We had the bug nets and the bug spray, and we really thought it would be bad. But I think it was already too chilly out because the lows were in the 40s, 50s, low 50s. And so I think the mosquitoes were gone. No mosquitoes and no flies and no ticks. So it was great.
That's wild. I mean, Midwest in the summertime usually comes with a caveat of mosquitoes everywhere.
Yeah, so being eaten alive.
Exactly. So that's a really great way to spend a camping trip with no bugs. Well, where did you guys go camping in Wisconsin this past weekend? Where were you at?
So we were on Bass Lake near Hayward.
Okay.
Hayward would be the biggest town. Drummond, maybe I said that right, would be the closest town, but it's very small. So
that's a cool area.
Yeah, the campground was called Two Lakes Campground. So Bass Lake was a really small lake, and then right on the other side was a much larger lake, and I can't remember what that one's called right now. Oh, Lake Owen, I think. But the campground had over 90 campground sites. About half of them, I would estimate, are first come, first serve, and the vast majority of them are directly on the water, either one lake or the other. So really good odds of finding a good campsite if you go there.
So campsites with a view too. That sounds, I mean,
Yeah.
that sounds like Hayward, right? That whole area just is like lakes and people going up there to relax, and that just sounds really great. Um, Question, when you go camping, do you tend to stay like on your campsite and like in the campground, or do you find yourself like going into town and like eating at restaurants and things?
No, so we can't drive away from our campsite because we have a tent that sits on top of the back of the Jeep. And so
Hmm.
our tent is attached to our vehicle. So we would have to fully pack up camp and put our tent away and then have to like leave stuff behind to hold our slot if we were to move our vehicle. So
Okay, well,
yeah,
yeah.
so no. What we normally do is bring our bikes so that we have a little bit more range of where we can get to. So we went biking. We could get to 2 trailheads from the campground that way. So we did hikes, we went paddleboarding, bonfires, hammocked. But yeah, when we need ice, Tom usually bikes to the nearest place to get more ice for the cooler.
Honestly, I think that's the way to do it. I remember the first time I took Matt car camping because he's like camped in the Boundary Waters and he's backpacked in Glacier and like done all these things. And the first time we went car camping, he kept asking like, "Well, where are we going to go out to eat?" And I was like, "No, just because we have our car doesn't mean we're going out."
That's not why
And
I
then
camp, to do nothing and get away from everyone.
exactly,
Not to
and
be in a town.
exactly. I
Yeah.
agree with you. And so having your tent attached to your car is a really good excuse to not be able to drive anywhere. But yeah, I agree. It's to like detach and have a good time. And do you have like a little carrier thing for your dogs for the bikes, or do you bring the dogs with you when you bike? Oh my
Yep,
gosh,
yep.
yes.
We have a basket. They have to sit in the same basket because Leo is very attached to Lucy. But the basket also works for, going to get firewood or ice or doing errands on the bicycle too. Yeah, the dogs come with for everything. They also come with paddleboarding and they have life jackets. Leo fell in last weekend, so
Oh,
it was windy and he fell off the front. So
did he
so
panic or was he like comfortable? Like, I got this, I'm gonna swim.
no, he panicked. So Tom was like 20 feet away with Lucy and he went for Tom, like not back towards me, that like I'm right there. He like swam towards Tom. So yeah. No,
I
he didn't want
swear,
to be
yeah.
in the water.
Oh, poor guy. I
Yeah.
mean, they
He's
swim
fine
when they
though.
can. I know Kaya, one of my dogs too, doesn't love swimming, but she loves paddleboarding. And we were paddleboarding 2 summers ago with my whole family. There was like 6 of us out on paddleboards, and she was having a great time like walking between our paddleboards. So like we'd get really close and she'd transfer and stuff. And at one point we were going through the channel like of by Lake of the Isles, and the paddleboard she was trying to go between were like slowly separating, and she had her front paws on one and her back paws on the other, and she's just staring at me like, what is happening? I'm like, you gotta decide, you gotta go. And sure
Commit to
enough, she just
one.
like floop, like right in the middle, and she kind of just like looks panicked, but then you got the life jacket with the
Yep.
handle, you can just grab her and scoop her back up. But
The
yeah,
handles are the best. Like
so
it
good.
makes it so easy to scoop them out of the water.
Yeah, and they'll just, life jacket float, grab them, pull them back up, and they're good to go. Though I will say, like, Aiko, the Lab Shepherd, a little bit harder to pull up by the handles. But he is also the worst paddleboard dog ever. And I think it's because he is a lab and likes swimming, but
Oh.
he
So he doesn't
treats
want to
it.
stay on the
He
paddleboard?
doesn't want to stay on the paddleboard. So he treats it as like a way that we get him to go swim more. So we'll like paddle, he's doing great on the way out. We get to the middle of the lake, he jumps off and then starts swimming to shore. And then it's like a chase down to like try to catch him so he doesn't like go all the way back to shore and like, I don't know, go
You like
wherever.
need him on a leash in the water to keep
Yeah,
him near
which
the
does
boards.
work well because he's a really, really good swimmer. So you can just hook onto him and he'll just pull you.
That's fun. Like tow
But
me around.
yeah, we've learned don't put him on board.
That's funny.
Well,
So
that's fun. Well, should we dive into what we're here to talk about today?
I think we should.
All right. Well, so we were talking, and it's been a long time since we've talked about anything Copilot, anything. And I feel like maybe some of it's because we're a little burnt out about hearing about Copilot. Maybe some of it's because we're like, well, where do we even start with it? Is it at, where's Copilot at? Is it at a point where people are using it? Kind of what's going on out there? But then we figured that maybe a good way to talk about Copilot with our listeners is to just go in blind to some of Microsoft 365 applications, give it a try, and see truly like what it is all about. I know I haven't really used any of the Microsoft 365 Copilots yet. Have you?
No, I don't have access to it. So I'm relying on you showing me your license to take a look at it for real. So I think we should also start too by talking about like what are the different copilots, because copilot is a broad and confusing term in and of itself because it can mean a lot of different things depending on like the context and the application that you're in.
And you know what, too, that's even been confusing about Copilot is there's some of them that span applications.
Mhm.
So I agree. That's a good place to start. And like, I guess what I'm referring to is we've been diving into Copilot for sales a lot.
Mhm.
So, people refer to it as this is Copilot for sales. And the reason I've been diving into that one is because it's related to Dynamics, right? And it's kind of replacing the Outlook app that we used to install for everybody, right? So it's the Copilot that really connects your Outlook with your Dynamics 365 sales environment. Now that same Copilot can also connect to Teams. So now it's confusing about that is we have this Copilot for sales, I'm doing air quotes, but that connects to Dynamics 365 sales, but also connects to Outlook, but also connects to Teams. And then we also have M365 Copilots that are just in Teams and just in Outlook. And a lot of the experiences are kind of blending together. Like if I were to open my Copilot for Teams from M365, it just doesn't have some of the options that Copilot for Sales does, even though you're like looking at what seems to be the same Copilot in the same place. So,
yeah, so
yeah.
Basically, there's Copilot in Dynamics or Sales. Is there Copilot in like F&O or BC? I don't even know.
There is an F&O, yeah.
Okay.
So there's Copilot for Sales, and then there's Sales Copilot, which are two different ones.
Okay.
And I think I'm naming these correct. We'll look them up and make sure. But then, yes, F&O also, or FNSCM also now has Copilot. So there is Copilot in there, and I haven't messed with that one much, but I do know it's there. I know the last time I checked, there was not anything in BC yet, but coming soon.
But you can also use Copilot when you're doing configuration work in like the Power Platform.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the name for that? Like, what would you call that Copilot in that context?
Honestly, I've kind of gave up on identifying all the different Copilots, and I just call them Copilot.
Okay, because I know you can help it do configuration work, right? So it's like a Copilot in the Maker portal, basically, like if you're building.
Exactly. Yeah. And so just for like my own sanity's sake, I've kind of stopped thinking about how there's all these different Copilots, and I'm just saying that this is Copilot. And because the experience is similar, right? You start by asking it questions, you can tell it to respond in certain ways. So I think it's just like, it's helped me to just think about it as this is Copilot. I don't really care what it's called. It kind of does the same thing where you're working. It might have more functionality, less functionality based on what your licensing is, but at the end of the day, it's just Copilot,
Mm-hmm. So I'm not using the Office one or the Dynamics one because TechFluent does not have the proper licensing to take advantage of it, which is another topic. But I do use Copilot all the time in my browser by just going to Edge and interacting it with it there, or you can go to copilot.microsoft.com. And then I also have the Copilot app on my phone that I use for like my go-to AI app. So I interact with it, I guess, in like the app and the browser format.
Have you been using Copilot more so than like a ChatGPT or any other AI applications?
So I have found that they're good in the browser. They're good for different things. So like Copilot in the browser is better at doing like your internet research. Like if you're researching something and you need to like consume multiple websites or find the right source, Copilot's really good at that. The Copilot in the browser for me, and maybe it's a free version and there's a paid version, like I don't know, but it doesn't create content. Like it's not going to generate an image or like write an email for you. So like I'll use Chat GPT to like draft an agenda or draft an email or do some sort of like written content creation. But the Copilot on my phone, on my app that is free, does do that. So it's like the app on my phone is combining the browser and the Chat GPT experience into one, but I'm not going to write like my emails on my phone. So it's helpful for when I'm on my phone, but then I'm back to Chat GPT when I'm like on my computer wanting to like draft content.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it. This is a really important question. What do you think would be better at naming my fantasy football team?
I mean, Copilot on your phone, but like Copilot in the browser will not create, like won't come up with names. It only like researches.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, we can try it, but
yeah, I mean, I'm all about beta testing things, but this is important, Liz. The NFL starts tonight and my team name is still from last year and I need to find a new team name for this year. Clock's ticking.
Do you have any ideas? Like starting points?
I mean, usually a good pun name is a good place to go, right? Are you pulling up Copilot right now?
I am. I'm going to do it on my phone.
In your browser? Or you're going to do it on your phone? Okay, you do it on your phone. I'll do it in my browser.
And then we'll see the difference.
Yeah, and then we can try out the difference. So the two players... Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I know, I was going to start talking about players. What were you going to say?
I was going to say the other feature I like on my phone is that I can do voice to text, like talk to it, and I don't get to do that in the... I can do that in the browser. I don't think I can do that in ChatGPT because I'm not on like paid versions of anything.
Right, and that I know too is there's still like the paid versions of ChatGPT because Matt has it. So when I want to do cool things like generate images, I'm always like, can I borrow your phone?
Yeah. Or just get the app. The Copilot app will generate images.
Okay, which I didn't know. I'll have to do that now.
I think.
We'll try it. But okay, so I've got two players on my team. I've got Burrow, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and they're both on the Bengals. I don't know why I'm all in on the Bengals, but I'm really excited about this. But I was like, all right, we've got a last name Chase and a last name of Burrow. There's got to be some good puns out there with those two guys, right? So if I say like, let's try that. What's a good fantasy football team name that's a pun for Chase and Burrow? For Chase and Burrow, I'm typing as we go.
Me too. Do you have any other prompting advice for this? Do you want it to be? Do we want to like
make it be a pun and maybe like 3 words or less, or 5 words or less, or something? I wonder if we could try to get it to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't want your team name to be too long.
No. All right, so here, I got one, and they said, how about chasing burrowed treasures? Which is actually kind of funny. But what if I say like, okay, how about if I say, give me 10 more options? Let's see if it'll do that for me. It did. Okay, so it gave me 10 more options.
Oh, cool.
I feel like seeing 10 of them in a row from each other makes them not as exciting, though. They all seem to be the same. Burrow my chase. What does that even mean?
I don't know.
Chase the burrow. I don't know either. I'm gonna have to keep working on this, I think. What is yours coming up with?
It isn't. The app's not working. I'm restarting it. It didn't work.
Okay. But I mean, hey,
it. Yeah.
Real life situations. Did it give you any errors when it wasn't working, or did it just like not return anything? No, it was just
like spinning.
Just spinning. Okay. I will say too, I didn't even realize this, but because I'm going through Copilot through work right now, so I get the 2 options of like work versus web, and I think that's what you were mentioning before. So some organizations will get the Copilot for work, which protects your data. It's a little bit more private browsing, so I know that's what I have right now.
So it gave me 5 to start with, without me specifying. Burrow and Chase Brigade, Chasing Burrow's Glory, Burrow Chase Crew, Burrow's Chase Squad, Chase the Burrow. So some of those were the same, weren't they?
Some of them were the same, but some of them were different. So that's kind of cool. We got some different results. Did you like any of them? I don't know. I like the one Chasing Burrowed Treasures. Maybe I'll do that one. That was like the first one it gave me, but it's the funniest one.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Okay. Maybe that'll be it. All right, cool. Fantasy football team named. We're good to go now.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned licensing a little bit as well when we were going through this. I just mentioned it too of like, excuse me, for my organization, we have like the work version on the web. But the licensing can definitely be confusing and a sticking point for people as well, because so many of the copilots are licensed separately. And so going back to my previous comments of where I was like, I don't really care what the copilots are called, right? That's for my own sanity. But you really do have to know about the different copilots when it comes to licensing with what you want to get. Because like there's some copilots that are included with your Dynamics licenses. There's some that are add-ons to your Microsoft licenses. I think some are included with your Microsoft 365 licenses. So there's like all these different tiers of Copilot capabilities with the licensing too, which is hard to keep track of.
Yeah, so I've done the research from like a nonprofit and small business perspective. So like my understanding, I'm going to talk about it just from an M365 perspective, is that it's $30 a user a month to add on to your Office licensing. There's not discounts and there's no trials. So for like a small business, it's just not an accessible price point. And then you also have some requirements of which Office license level you need to be on in order to add it onto. So like E3, E5, or Business Standard or Business Premium. And we're not even on that high of level of Office license. Like we would have to upgrade and pay for Office to then pay for Copilot as a nonprofit. So not accessible to nonprofits, basically.
So not accessible at all. Like there's not even like a base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's hard because it is being so pushed. And I kind of get why there isn't a trial, because it is like they also have the free version in the web that you can just go out there and get. And I feel like, at least from what I've been experiencing, like talking to clients and stuff about it, is it still is this ominous thing where people still aren't really sure what Copilot can do. So I feel like if you'd get a trial, it might not do anything for you unless you know exactly what you're trying to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and I think the way I would want to use a trial if I were making a decision for a small business would be to like assign one or two people, like a small group of people, to test it and see, like evaluate if the ROI would be there to then go purchase it for the business. But I think it's really, I would find it very hard to commit to spending that amount of money without like vetting its value first. And so like we're missing the chance, I think, to get truly hands on with it. Like you can spin up an Office trial.
That's true.
Maybe I should try to spin up an Office trial. Maybe it would come with that by default. I don't know. I haven't tried that. But I'm just, from like a small business perspective, it's like, is it worth it or not? I don't know how you would figure that out without just actually trying to use it for a while.
How long do you think a trial should be for it? I know typical is like 30 days, but I genuinely feel like a lot of people don't know what Copilot can do, and they'd almost, I like your idea of a focus group. I think that makes a lot of sense, because then you're saying like, you are our beta testers, give this a try, run it through, come up with scenarios, and honestly keep track of those scenarios, right? Because then they can tell the rest of your org, should you choose to go ahead with it, on what they tested. Because that feels like the number one thing right now that's a blocker for people, is they're like, well, I don't know what it can do and I don't know what I would do with it.
Right. It's just a big unknown. Yeah, especially like if we're trying to get beyond like it writing an email for someone. Like we know it can do that, but like how good is it really at creating a pretty PowerPoint, for example? I don't know how you would know that until you try it.
Well, Liz, I have PowerPoint up. We can try it. Here, I'll share my screen. I know if a lot of people are listening to this on Spotify or another source that isn't YouTube, that's totally fine. But I will say, for those of us, or those of you that can see this on YouTube, I will share my screen so you can see it.
And we will try to verbally describe what's happening too, for all of you not looking at your screen right now, if you're listening to this only.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
And so, Ellie, you just recently got your Copilot M365 license, right?
I did, right. So we had Teams Premium for a while, and then we kind of swapped that out for M365 Copilot, and we had to go through some training in order to be able to access, these Copilot apps. It was just Microsoft Learn training, which is pretty, it's not bad. It's pretty good. Just gives you the very basics on how to get around. But I still think like that use case situation is really important to actually be able to learn it. But this is also why I haven't messed with this yet, because I've only had this license for like a week. So the biggest things I noticed is obviously now in here I have my Copilot button, but I haven't done anything in like Excel or PowerPoint or Word yet with Copilot. So new for me too. But yeah, I guess, okay, so if I click on the Copilot button that's right on the top of the screen, it gives you the Copilot pane off on the right? And this is what I mean, like they all look the same, they all have the same experience, which is why I'm just mentally telling myself like, oh, it's just Copilot. But yeah, what should we try to create a presentation about? Should we try to create like about camping experiences in Wisconsin?
No, I was going to make it more realistic. I was going to say like, how would a project kickoff deck? Like, how would Copilot kick off a sales project? Like, I want to see if it'll do like project team, scope, timeline, budget. Like, does it have that concept, or is that too advanced?
Yeah, let's try to be descriptive. So if I say create a presentation to kick off a project to a company who wants to implement a CRM software to support their sales organization. All right, so maybe that I felt like it was going to be more detailed than it was, but it's basically saying that it's analyzing what we typed into it at this point. It's probably working on some things. I'm very curious to see how many slides it actually spits out for us.
We gave it no guidance.
No.
Really.
Ooh, and another test will be what it can do for branding. Like, I'm very curious if it'll...
Can you upload an attachment down there?
Does not look like it. Okay. Oh, it gave us a lot, and they have animations. So it gave us 16 different slides. And and they gave us notes. Look at that. So the first slide is the title, and it even gave you talking points to go along with that slide.
Wow.
So introducing a CRM system for your sales team. Maximize your profits and sales performance with CRM. It's giving us presentation overview, so kind of like an agenda, benefits of CRM, implementation process, and key features. I feel like we should skip down to the implementation because I want to see what it says there. So the CRM implementation process, it's saying defining your CRM needs and goals, selecting your CRM provider, data migration and integration, CRM training for your team. Okay, that's important.
Yeah.
What font did it pick? It looks like Times New Roman. It's not though, but it looks like it. Yeah, define needs and goals. I guess with the font conversation, can we go back and say like update all the body fonts to be Calibri?
The font feels small and it feels very wordy to me. Like, I feel like if I were making these slides, like they would be more bullets and less text. Like, it's very text heavy for my personal preference for a deck.
I agree. I mean, I agree. Whenever you're doing a deck, it should be more visual, and there's a ton of text on some of these slides. And I will say, when I asked it to update the fonts, it said no. But it says select view prompts. So if I do view prompts, edit. Oh, okay. So there's not a lot in here. So if I want to edit it, it allows me to add an image of something or organize the presentation.
What else would we want the PowerPoint to do?
I know. Well, I think just seeing the limitations down here helps. I wonder what it would pick. So if I say summarize this presentation, if that's going to just rehash everything. Okay, so that's kind of nice. So it did say, what are the benefits? How do you implement key features, centralized data, and strategies? So it did come up with a ton of content on the very limited prompt that we gave it.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like this would be good to get you a starting point. And then you definitely have to go through and edit it to get it to look exactly like how you want it to, like with fonts and branding and things like that.
that's what I was just thinking. Like, I really don't ever just use anything that AI is spitting out, like, as is, right? Like, it's always just a starting point or it's a tool in the tool belt. But, like, I always still update the content before using it somewhere. So, I mean, this isn't that different. I think it would just be nice to have maybe more of the formatting prompts in there.
I agree. And I think people need to remember that too, that AI is not perfect and you should always read what it produces and don't use it at its face value. Um, but same, I feel like editing's always good. Double check the wording, double check accuracy. But kind of what I could see this particular use case in PowerPoint being helpful for is like giving you ideas. You know, like if you're ever like staring at a blank deck going, what the heck do I want to put in here? Then use Copilot and maybe it'll spit out some ideas and really help the creative juices flow. So you can then go in and like get some more ideas on what you want to plug into your deck.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's rate it. On a scale of 1 to 5, how excited are we about PowerPoint's Copilot?
Like a 1 or a 2, mostly because it doesn't seem like it does any formatting help, which is where I feel like I spend most of my time putzing in a deck. It's not actually the content for me, it's more the visual effect of it. It's the most
Yeah.
putsy part in my mind. So
What if we we can try to do like a new one too. And maybe I'll give it a go and we can say like maybe give it some more prompts at the beginning to be able to give it some. So here, let's go create a presentation about TechFluent Academy and what services it provides. Use the coloring from TechFluent. I'll put blue and orange to help it. But I wonder if it'll even like get that and if it'll be able to like look up TechFluent and see what it is.
I'm curious too. Like, is it gonna search the internet to find that?
I mean, it pulled out the CRM data from somewhere, right? So I'm guessing it's pulling it from the internet. But yeah, let's see if it can actually go out and like find TechFluent and be able to create a deck for you. I can see it at the bottom of the screen. It's adding something. No.
No, it's just making stuff up.
It is.
It's making up. It's not. So does it not search the internet? Is it like ChatGPT where it just is like, what do you call that? Like it's just this other database.
The large language model,
there we
right?
go.
So it's just pulling it from other places.
It is very good at fabricating things, I've noticed.
I mean, Liz, I feel like you have not told me about this full stack development bootcamp that Copilot is offering.
It also didn't even take your color suggestions that you
No,
gave it.
I even put in blue and orange and it didn't give anything in blue and orange.
I'm definitely rating this a 1 now. That just convinced me.
All right. I'll agree. I was going to be a little bit nicer and say like a 2 or a 3 just because I get excited about the possibilities and I feel like we need to start somewhere with it. And like I said, for brainstorming, I could see this being really helpful for brainstorming. But I also feel like we're really good at coming up with our own content. And what would be really nice is that editing capability. But I think at the beginning, it even said like, oh yeah, if you'd like, Designer also has other layout options. And let's be real, Designer is like the original AI in PowerPoint. And I love the Designer feature. Use it all the time.
Yeah, Designer is great. I mean, it's kind of old news now, but I've been using it for years. It's a really fast way to just pretty up a deck if you're not already kind of working in a standard template. And yeah, I use Designer all the time.
Same. But even look at the examples it's giving us with Designer. I feel like Designer usually gives you more options. And right now, pretty much all it's showing us is like flipping what side the one picture is on and leaving the same paragraph formatting of the text. And I feel like...
And the same picture. Usually it gives some different graphics. Yeah, so it's almost like the content that was generated by Copilot is now hindering the options from Designer. Like, I think if we would have started the deck from scratch, like, Designer would be doing a better job.
Yeah, I agree. Because designer, you're absolutely right about the pictures. It usually does like swap out different pictures or give you alternatives or things like that. And this just looks like the exact same slide with like slightly different spacing and then like flipping what side the text and the pictures are on, and that's it.
So you know when
Okay.
you're in Copilot in your browser and you can say summarize this website for me, I feel like that's basically what we asked it to do. We just asked it to put it into a deck. Like, and I'm wondering if like there is an option or will be an option to say like instead of a written response of summarize this website for me, if you'll be able to say like summarize this website for me and put it into a PowerPoint. Like that would then kind of meet the end goal that we were trying to do in this scenario.
Yeah, that would be cool. Or I know there's the option to use a Word document and
Mm.
create a PowerPoint from a Word document. I definitely don't have any Word documents that I can think of offhand that I could do that for, but that intrigues me as well to see like what it comes up with, and like maybe if you have branding in your Word document, it would pick up on the branding. That might be an option too. But yeah, maybe we can just go ahead and try it in Word.
Sure.
I feel like I don't use, well, I use Word for like notes and things sometimes, but I feel like I underutilize Word for trying to use Copilot in it.
Okay, but like, what are we seriously doing in Word these days? So, to your point, like, I guess it's good for
Yeah.
writing written content. Like, it has some. I'm trying to think of like.
Like, what if I do like write me work instructions with graphics to show someone how to, all I'm thinking of is food. Apparently, I'm hungry. I'm like grill a hamburger, make a s'more.
Like make a recipe or a menu or
Yeah,
resume. And
just
like, what do you do in Word?
yeah, a resume is a good one too. So I feel like work instructions are a resume. So like, okay, write me work instructions with graphics to show someone how to build a garden. I don't know, that might be a stupid example. But let's see if it can like do step-by-step work instructions and pull in pictures with a how-to. Because I mean, again, not totally relevant to like CE type work, but oh, interesting. It didn't even put it in my Word document. This one put it off to the side.
So, what's the difference than just using the browser and doing that? Or ChatGPT if you're
I
copying and
think,
pasting it into Word?
yeah, so I guess like what it would be is in the spirit of have Copilot meet you where you're working, right?
Mm.
So like if I'm in Word, then it's just there. So I don't have to go in my browser and pull it up in a different context.
Where is the copy button in here? Like we get in the browser. There we
Copy.
go. Okay.
But now
Interesting.
do I have to like click here and paste? Now I have
Yeah.
to paste. Hmm.
And then it won't edit it in the Word doc. Like it's just gonna edit it in the prompt. Like if you say like make this down, like consolidate this down to one page.
Can you, okay, it gave me a little pop-up on the bottom. It doesn't look like you guys can see that, but it says describe what you'd like to write. But yeah, ask me anything about this document. So yeah, let's try that. Consolidate these instructions to one page.
And while that's working, I'll kind of give the context of why that came to mind is that I have found that Copilot's very handy, Copilot ChatGPT, if you're trying to get things under a certain page or word or character limit. I write a lot of things that have that requirement, and it saves a ton of time to give it kind of the core raw content and then just ask it to shorten it to whatever it needs to be.
I think that's a super good use case because a lot of people run into that too. And like submitting applications or like anything like that, it's always like character limits on things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I say it didn't change a single thing. And I just realized that when I asked it for graphics, it just added a section at the bottom that said like, here are some graphics about building a garden that could be included. But it doesn't give
You
me
can't
any
actually
pictures.
add a picture.
No.
Okay, rate this one on a scale of 1 to 5.
This one I like less. I would be with you, maybe a 2. Again, I feel like there's some good use cases out there and we're just trying to still figure out very much what they are. This one is harder for me to think of use cases on than PowerPoint.
Yeah, the fact that you still have to copy and paste it in is kind of like killing it for me. Like I mean, Allie, don't you have your browser with tabs open all day every day with multiple screens? Like I don't see
I
how
do.
it's any different to copy and paste from a browser window into Word than like the pane on the right into Word.
So I will say, so you guys can't see this. I'm sharing my screen in Word again, but it does say select the icon, and there's a little Copilot icon, or press Alt-I to draft with Copilot. And then if I press Alt-I, it gives me a little pop-up that says draft with Copilot. So in here, I wonder if I say like, write me a recipe for baking a pie. And then if I click generate, I wonder if this will just put it right in the Word doc. It is. Okay.
Okay. Good. This is what I was expecting to happen.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think there's the difference between the Copilot pane and then in your Word doc, it can prepare something for you like right on your screen.
So it's just about where you're starting it from, basically.
Also, I'm going to save this recipe and I'll try to make it and let's see how it actually tastes.
Is it an apple pie?
It's an apple pie. And honestly, it says preferably Granny Smith or Honeycrisp, and those are two of the best apples. So
Yep.
I kind of like that. I feel like this would be good.
You should have asked it to make a hot dish recipe, Allie. Not an apple
Oh my
pie
gosh.
recipe. What are we doing?
All right. Well, at the bottom, it does say keep it or I can trash it. So let me hit the little trash can. We'll
Ask
discard.
for a tater tot hot dish recipe and see if
Okay.
it knows what that is.
Write me a tater tot hot dish recipe. Generate. Ooh, it came up with this one really quick. So let's check it out, see if it's valid. So there are no tater tots in it. Oh, yes, there are. So there's, I was going to say, strike one. Ground beef, onion, cream of mushroom soup, cream of chicken soup, mixed vegetables, cheddar cheese, tater tots. That actually sounds like a legit hot dish that I've probably had in my life.
Yeah, it's not missing any core ingredients. Is it putting the tots on the top or the bottom? Let's look at the
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah,
okay.
because you know that now some people eat their tots on the bottom.
Oh my gosh, Liz, read this though. Step number 4, assemble the hot dish. Transfer the beef and vegetable mixture to a greased 9x13-inch baking dish. Spread it out evenly. Arrange the frozen tater tots in a single layer over the beef mixture, covering the entire surface. That's my approved way. Yep. I like them on the top. I think that makes sense.
Okay, so it did a good job with the recipes.
It did. This is solid, actually. I don't know what a good use, like if that's a real use case, because like we could totally just Google it, but at the same time, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Can you think of any other like more work related examples for a Word doc?
I swear I just use it primarily for work instructions, and that's going to be really hard because I like to include screenshots with my work instructions, and it's not going to be able to generate screenshots for me.
Right. If you put a screenshot into it, like could you just add screenshots with no text and could it describe the steps for you? I wonder, like I'm picturing like creating a training doc of like instead of being like click new, fill out these fields, click save, like if it could describe that process based on the screenshots.
Well, should I start with something simple? Should I just put in, I have a picture of me and mountains. Let me see if I just put this in the document. Okay, so it inserted me with my puppies in the mountains.
Cute.
And then if I do, again, so what was it? Alt-I. Oh, no, it's not going to do anything now.
Oh, because there's a photo in the Word doc, so you can't do the prompt now?
No. Well, I guess ask me a thing about what is in the, describe.
Or provide a summary of the photo.
Summary of the photo. Okay. It says ask me anything about this document. It seems that I couldn't retrieve the photo. Could you please provide me the details? I don't think it knows that there's a photo in here.
Okay, so this is my screenshot scenario. That's a no-go then.
No,
okay.
It's not going to be able to analyze the screenshot and tell you what's in there. Also, my dog is pawing at my little office door right now, so I'm just going to let her in really quick. Except for then when she comes in here, she just stares at the door and wants to be let out again.
Well, that's why my door is ajar, so that the dogs can come and go on their own.
Oh, they're so needy.
I would rate this still like maybe a 1 or 2. I'm not super impressed. I mean, I'm sure it will continue to get better. It's very early stages, right?
Yeah, and I would say, like, based off of our experiences here, we came in raw, right? We're like, all right, we haven't used Copilot in Word, we haven't used Copilot in PowerPoint. Let's just try to think of some scenarios that we can use it for. And we're having a hard time. So again, I feel like, again, number one issue with Copilot for a lot of people is, what do I use it for? And I feel like we've gotten better by understanding how to use it in the web. And like I said, in Dynamics, like people in Dynamics are coming up with good use cases for it. But I don't know, maybe I don't use the M365 apps enough.
Okay, well, I mean, it's in Excel, Outlook, OneNote, Teams. Do we want to check out any of those other ones?
I will say that Teams is actually really good. So there's some good use cases for Teams in there where I love the meeting summaries. I love how it, and this, I can't really show examples of these, right? Because they're all like client meetings or internal meetings, but I do love the meeting summaries that it provides and recaps. So there's a few things that I've been thinking about even recently is, you know, Liz, when you're on calls and you're like, why are there 97 people on this call? There should be 3 of us because the other 94 people aren't saying anything.
Yeah.
Well, it'll tell you like who talked and when they talked. So it shows you like the little bars of how often. So if you're looking at these meetings and you're trying to slim it down and you can at a glance see, oh, these 10 people didn't say anything the entire meeting, then maybe they don't need to be there. Maybe they're a note taker or maybe they're knowledge transferring or something. So you're not expecting them to talk. But I think that's a really great way to like see visually, especially for like project managers, on who's actually engaging in these meetings.
Well, also, like, it could be that the person should be there and should be engaging, but there's like maybe a performance or engagement issue that's happening, which would then be really useful information for like that person's manager to be like, hey, what's going on? Like, you're not participating in these calls.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Does it aggregate the data or analyze the data at all, like over multiple sessions? Like if it's like a reoccurring weekly call or something like that, or is it just the data for that one particular meeting?
That's a good question. It's only for that one particular meeting. And I know for like I have some reoccurring meetings that I look at the Copilot recaps for, and it just lets you pick the day of the meeting. There's like a drop down in the upper left corner, and you can pick which day or which recurrence of the meeting that you want to look at. And then it just shows you just the stats for that one meeting. So it doesn't like concatenate them all or
I
anything
would like to
that.
see, I would like to see the combination. I would like to see if there's a trend, right? Because I think in isolation and one call, it would be hard to make a decision off one participation in one meeting. But then if you see a trend over multiple, like I think that starts becoming really helpful information.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's like a future Power BI application or something, right? Like if this data that Copilot is collecting is available for you to query in Power BI and like build yourself a report like that that'd be able to analyze like average speaking time during meetings or something like that.
I'm sure you probably could. I mean, I feel like we've had like that data like via the graph for a while. It's just like not very consumable as is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay.
And the meeting notes make a lot of sense. Like the summaries, the next steps, the action items. Like I could see how all that would be very helpful. Do you use it a lot like when you respond to emails or create meeting agendas? Like do you use it in Outlook?
I don't. I feel like that's one of the things that I'm kind of strong at too. I feel like so maybe that's why I haven't tried it, but I write so many agendas and I write so many emails and I've always been a decent email writer. You know, I know that I'm using right punctuation and right language and things like that, so I never even think about it. What about you? Have you tried it in Outlook at all?
Well, I don't have it in Outlook because
I keep forgetting this. Yeah.
but I do frequently copy and paste things over, yes, from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I have talked to people like was just talking to a friend and she wanted her out of office message like proofread, and I'm like, you don't need to call someone to like proofread your emails. Like just have ChatGPT write it. Like if you're trying to come up with how to say something hard that's professional too. Like oftentimes I'll run it through there and like I'll put down kind of my raw thoughts, but you can say like, make this more professional. Or, you know, if you're writing maybe a social media post or a blog, you can say like, make this more casual, make this more fun, make this more like lighthearted, and it can kind of change the tone for you as well. I think like there are some words it likes to use that I think are very much like, oh, you can tell AI wrote that.
Delve.
Yeah, or moreover. Like, who would actually write moreover in an email? I mean, I don't. It's so formal.
Yep.
And it loves, I mean, we've talked about this with social posts before, Allie, how it likes those emojis and like
Oh
that
my gosh.
title. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I mean, if you're clearly getting your point across, does it matter that it wrote it that way? Like, isn't it about like the communication and not about, I don't know, like, if there's an emoji or if you can tell that AI wrote it? So
yeah, and I think that's fair. And I think too, I know one of the guys we play volleyball with uses it to write emails and stuff all the time. And he'll like prompt it. He's a manager, and he'll say, you know, hey, write this professionally for this kind of response. And I think it is just to kind of help elevate you a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I can get my point across, but I need it to be concise and I need it to be straightforward. And this is not a conversation I'm usually comfortable having. Right. So then it can really help you in those ways for sure.
Yeah, not everyone is like as comfortable writing as maybe you are, Allie. Like, people can spend a lot of time trying to like draft a quality professional email, and I think it can really just make the language more clear and more concise and more articulate without you having to like lose time or sleep over drafting that message. So yeah, if you're having any sort of like writer's block or just want like a proofread, it's definitely helpful with that.
And you know what this is taking me back to though is like, I remember my first job out of college. I worked in a call center for a tree care company, and I was writing like notes to salespeople all the time. And I remember being told, you're too detailed. Don't put as much stuff in your emails. And like, that's
No
really
one's gonna
stuck with
read
me.
it.
Exactly. Like, no one's going to read this. But I'm like, why? I'm telling them everything they need to know. And it's like, well, because it's too much. And I did have a couple salespeople who were just like, this is fabulous, keep doing it. But the vast majority were like, yeah, I'm not reading this. So like, however, how many, 10 years ago, Allie would have very much liked to have this so I could take my notes, put it in there and say, consolidate this to 3 bullet points, you know, and then take it and paste it back in there. But yeah, that was a real problem, as I was like flooding with information. You don't need to do that.
I could see that. How about Excel? Like, how do you feel like Copilot would work with Excel? Like, can it write formulas? Can you tell it to like do a formula without actually having to like do the formula yourself?
I think so. So that's another one. I don't have any like live examples on the fly of formulas, but takes me back to my college days when we had to do like key values and stuff.
Open Excel and just be like, create a household budget maybe. And then let's just try to ask it to like average or sum or do something really simple.
Okay. And that's a real thing, because I have seen some demos where it like takes data in a table and you can say like, summarize this data for me and what does this mean? And I feel like that's the good use case for it. Oh, this one also says preview.
I know. I'm like, the other ones were not in preview, were they?
No, I don't think so. So this one, it's giving me some prompts on turning on autosave. So I just clicked through those really quick. But yeah, so add formula columns, but I don't have anything in here. So I don't know how good this example is going to be. So if I say create a household budget, I wonder, to your point, if this is actually going to create see, it's looking for our data.
So you have to start with the data for Excel.
So you have to start with the data, which makes sense. I mean, again, we're kind of coming up with examples here, but man, you know what I wonder? I have a coworker who just went through and did a very complex calculation for one of his clients. And they sent it to him in Excel, and he kind of had to reverse engineer this formula to get a new formula. I am definitely going to ask him now if he tried to get Copilot to write it for him. because I'm very curious. I don't think he did, but I feel like we should have Copilot try it now because he figured it out. He got the formula done. It works. It's great. But I wonder if we'd ask Copilot to do the same thing, if it'd be able to do it.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm like trying to think of a real, like a scenario, like we're going to be matching mentors to mentees using Excel data. Now I don't have Copilot, but I'm curious if I could like give it that data and be like, match these people based on these like data points for me. Like, could it do that? Like where they live, for example, or what products they're interested in.
Well, here, let me do something here. So I'm not sharing my screen anymore, but I do have an example of like a staffing plan up of like how many hours people are supposed to work. So what if I ask it, if I say, how many hours would each person have to work in a week if we would condense this down to a 20-week project? Because that's a good one. Like we do staffing all the time, right? To be able to say like, oh, okay, no, each person needs to work 65 hours a week. Okay, let's not do that. But Liz, I'd be curious. You can always, okay, I don't know where to tell it to get this. I literally have this up. It says, to calculate the number of hours each person would need to work per week for a 20-week project, I need to know the total number of hours required for the project and how many people are on the team. So it's not looking at my data because I have it all there. So it wants me to tell it and say like,
So
we
it's
have...
not actually reading the spreadsheet.
No, not in this example at least.
Then if it doesn't read the spreadsheet, I would give it a 0. I mean, to be fair, this one also said it was in preview still.
Right. Yep, that's true. So if I say there's 9 people working on this project and there's 4,000 total hours for this project, I'm just totally making up numbers. How many hours would each person need? I can also do that math so quickly though.
I mean, you could also just get out like a calculate.
Or just plug it in to Excel, right? Because like I could just literally just type equals 4,000 divided by 9 divided by 20 weeks, you know, like you can do the math pretty quickly.
It's not actually saving time then if you have to like feed it that information, like type it into the prompt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here it did spit it out for me with that information though. So it didn't look at my spreadsheet where I had this all in. I had to give it everything in the Copilot pane, but then it told me each person will have to work 21 hours. 21.03 hours per week to get the project done in 20 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a calculator.
Yeah, exactly. It's a calculator. All right. Well, is there any other Copilot topics you want to talk about? We've been talking about Copilot for more than an hour.
I know. Well, I mean, we chit-chatted for quite a while, but are there any other main Office apps that we've not talked about that you feel like Copilot would be relevant in?
Well, I think we've talked about PowerPoint, we've talked about Word, we talked about Excel. We kind of glazed over Outlook and Teams, and I think those are the two for sure that get used most often. It's in OneNote. That'd be interesting.
Do you want to try it?
I use OneNote for everything, but...
I mean, I get, and I'm trying to think of what you would use it in OneNote for. It feels like it would be more just writing content. Like drafting.
No, you know what I could see? Okay, when you get added to a new project and someone's been on it for 8 months and they've taken 8 months worth of notes, I wonder if you could say like, yes, summarize the notes in this notebook for me to bring me up to speed on this project.
Ooh. Yeah.
Let me close OneNote and reopen it. Here, if I do Copilot, okay. Summarize. Again, does it help me? Yeah, so I'm just going to say summarize this notebook because I have a specific notebook that I have selected right now. And it does say like you can summarize this page as a status email. But if I want to say summarize this whole notebook to help bring me up to speed on a project, that would be super helpful.
Definitely.
I've had other coworkers too mention that a use case is that they'll take transcripts from meetings and run them through like a Copilot to say, summarize this meeting for me.
Oh, okay. I mean, but doesn't like the Teams Copilot already just do that?
It does. But yeah, okay. So another use case, I guess. Oh, it did. It summarized it for me.
That is awesome. Like, how short did it make it?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bullet points.
Can you ask it if there's any like I'm trying to think, like, issues? Like, ask it to like look for certain things, like due dates or problems or anything like that.
Are
Like, I'm
there
trying to think
any
of what you would
action
want
items?
to know if you were like joining a project midstream.
Are there any concerns in this notebook? I don't know if it'll understand that, but something like, I get what you're saying. So if it like calls out like potential issues and then gives you like 3 bullet points or something.
Yeah, like kind of the risk management part of like, are there any out of scope, out of budget, escalation things that could be like creeping in?
Let's see. It's prompting right now. I knew this one was going to be a long episode just because we're both curious. So we turned into like, what about this? What is happening?
And we're total rookies at this. Obviously, this is the first time we're trying to do these scenarios. I just asked Copilot in the browser what Copilot can do in OneNote.
Oh, okay.
So it says summarize to-do list, analyze ideas, rewrite notes, event plans, presentation ideas, lists, reorganization of notes, adjusting formatting. So apparently it can adjust formatting in OneNote, but not in like PowerPoint. And then highlighting important points.
Okay, love that. Let me tell you, from your document, there are several concerns and areas that may need attention. And it actually calls some out. It says like there's mention of a need to win over name because they have a big influence at this company, so you need to get buy-in from them.
Oh.
And then it says there's a statement that says you really have one shot to get this right, implies that there is pressure to deliver a solution without room for error, highlighting the importance of thorough planning and execution. Okay. And then there's other comments in here about like things, and then it says these points suggest that careful consideration of the system, stakeholder engagement, and user interface are critical for addressing the concerns. It may be beneficial to have discussions with relevant teams and stakeholders to address these concerns and ensure a successful outcome.
Can you ask it like how
it actually did
approach those discussions? Like, I wonder if it would actually give you like talking points for those meetings.
What provide some talking points for discussing these concerns with the stakeholders.
Consultants are going to be out of a job at some point with this.
But okay, Liz, I'm giving this one like a 4. I'm actually really, really excited about this Copilot.
I just got really impressed by how helpful this scenario is.
Yes.
Because there's nothing worse than trying to like consume a massive document, like whether that's Word or OneNote. Like, if you have no context and you're coming in cold and you're trying to read all these raw notes, like it's
my gosh, this is ridiculous. Okay, so it's currently combing through SharePoint to be able to get more to get help with documents. So it says, here are some talking points for discussing concerns with stakeholders. It's giving me some bullet points. Stakeholder engagement, project delivery and execution. Address the pressure to deliver a successful solution on the first attempt by outlining a robust plan that includes thorough testing, user training, and contingency plans to mitigate risks. Talks about design, open communication. Advocate for open and ongoing communication with all stakeholders to ensure everyone is informed and any concerns are addressed promptly. This can include regular updates, feedback sessions, and collaborative decision-making processes. And then it starts linking to this is cool. So it actually gives me like number references on where I got it from. And so like some of these are from like decks that we have to do kickoff. Yeah, this is crazy. It's like pulling from the files I have on my computer and that we have in SharePoint.
So it's actually like using your organization's like internal documentation, templates, delivery process, best practices to inform its response.
Yes. And it's giving me links to them too, so I can see where it's coming from, who built them. And some of them are like, training stuff too, which is cool.
And it can be really hard to find documents sometimes, like internally, right? Like if you don't know where it is. And so it's cool that it's linking to those sources. You can just like go jump right to that. I also like that it's like company specific and not like some generic internet search response, because it feels way more relevant to like your role and your organization then.
I agree. All right, Liz, I'm sold on OneNote Copilot.
I'm glad we ended with a really exciting kind of surprisingly good scenario.
For sure. This is going to be great. And like I said, onboarding on projects and like using Copilot to summarize notes, like, okay, cool. I'm sold. OneNote Copilot is where it's at. Everybody go give it a try.
You could even use that from like the sales to delivery transition. Like if sales was using OneNote for their notes, that would even be good for the start of a project.
Yes, 100%.
Like, what did we promise in the sales cycle and in those demos that we now need to deliver on?
Yeah.
That aren't in the statement of work yet. I mean, that would never happen, but...
No, but this is fantastic. Okay. Well, I guess we should wrap it up because I know we've been talking about this for a long time, but this is like really exciting. I'm glad we took the time to go through this for sure. In summary, Copilot for PowerPoint is okay. Copilot for Word is, I don't know, drop us some comments about what you use it for, because Liz and I don't know. And then Copilot for OneNote is awesome, and we're going to use it all the time.
I would if I had the licensing. But
sorry, I don't mean to keep rubbing it into your face.
I know. I just had a chat with Microsoft like last week, this week, it all blurs together, and gave them that feedback of, they were like, Copilot's so great. And I'm like, yeah, if you get to use it. So they are aware that it's not affordable for everyone, and they're working on it. It's just because it's so new. So
right. For sure.
But yeah, and like listeners, if you are using it in any other ways that we haven't covered, I mean, I would love to hear other exciting use cases. So if you're using it in any of the apps, share with us like what you're doing with it, please.
Please, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us again. We hope that you learned something about Copilot and you got our honest feedback on what we think about it as we try it live for the very first time. And as Liz said, I'll reiterate again, let us know how you're using it. I think that's the single biggest thing we can do right now is inform each other about how you're using it, what your use cases are, and it's just going to drive more ideas and conversation around it. So yeah, so thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you again for another episode soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Dynamics Hot Dish, your go-to podcast for all things Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media for even more insights and updates on the latest trends and best practices in business applications and low-code development. We'll be back soon with another delicious serving of Dynamics and Power Platform goodness. Until then, keep innovating and building great solutions.